Hello everyone, this is AndresRestart, and wild Nintendo Switch 2 news just dropped. A bevy of information has just come out about Donkey Kong Bananza, including new gameplay footage. We have a very strange situation surrounding Metroid Prime 4, where it's being advertised as being out now, which is leading many people to speculate that the game could be coming out soon. Is this true? We'll be discussing that and more surrounding the Switch 2 today. Let me tell you about these super comfortable Nintendo Switch 2 cases from both Supcase and Mumba, the sponsors for today's video. So as you can see with these cases here, they are highly ergonomic, stylish, they feel really good to hold, and of course, they are protecting your Switch 2. But something unique about these cases is that you can actually, while the cases are on the console, fit it into the dock and you can still use the Switch 2 as you would normally. So I find that to be a really unique design choice here. But on top of that, you can actually flap open the sides to remove the Joy-Cons whenever you see fit. But there is more provided to me that I would like to point out here. For example, these Joy-Con grips. Normally, I'm not going to really use my Joy-Cons to play any games, although with the Switch 2, the Joy-Cons are larger, a bit more comfortable to hold, so I'm considering doing it on occasion. But with these particular grips, they feel really nice. The handles definitely offer a firm hold that feels comfortable in your hands, and the SL and SR buttons, these little extra paddles they're adding for the shoulder buttons, make them a lot more comfortable and easy to press, and I can definitely see myself using this as an alternative option to play multiplayer games like Mario Kart, Smash Bros, and more. There's also a variety of really cool charging stands where you can hold your Joy-Cons or even your Switch 2 itself, and I'm particularly in love with this heavy-duty military-grade protective Switch 2 case. It's large, it's vast, you can house a variety of things, and it just feels really comfortable, and I feel extra safe with my Switch 2 in there. Of course, if you're looking for something a little bit slimmer, there's also this Mumba carrying case which works quite well as well. I love how it feels on the inside, it's very comfortable. So make sure to check out all these Supcase and Mumba accessories, they will be linked in the description below. So let's first tackle this topic from the game business, who is reporting some sales numbers for Switch 2 game sales. 62% of Switch 2 physical games in the US launch week were from first-party games excluding the Mario Kart World bundle. 48% of Switch 2 physical game sales in the UK in the launch week were from first-party games excluding the Mario Kart World bundle. And 86% of Switch 2 physical game sales in the UK in the launch week were from first-party games including the Mario Kart World bundle. By comparison, for the launch of Switch 1, 89% of UK physical game sales were from first-party games. And for a launch month of Switch 1 in the US, 81% of US physical game sales were from first-party games. Cyberpunk was the best-selling third-party game. Sega is the number 3 publisher on Switch 2 since launch. And when it comes to games released both physically and digitally, over 80% of Switch 2 game sales came from physical retailers. And so the overall point of the game business article here is that third-party sales are not doing so well on Nintendo Switch 2, but in comparison to Switch 1, technically they are better, and there's certainly some room for interpretation here. Matt Piscatella from Circana reporting on US sales said this on Blue Sky. Hate to contribute to a discourse, but third-party share of Switch 2 software in the US is far better than it was during the Switch 1 launch. He continues, third-party unit share of Switch 2 physical software during week 1 reached just shy of 40%. For month 1 of the Switch launch, it was less than 20%. So in this first week of Switch 2, we're talking about a double of a percentage compared to the first month of Switch 1. However, as Matt says here, like it's far too early to claim best or worse, this or that or whatever when it comes to Switch 2. As he says here towards the end of the thread, my point with the stat was to point out that it's silly to try and parse out huge findings and implications with such a small data set. So if you're coming to this because someone took a post completely out of context and used it to try and push some other argument, well, there it is. And so yes, right now you're going to be seeing different articles reporting on Switch sales. Some people are going to try and spin it as a negative, some people are going to try and spin it as a positive. But as Matt points out here, the overall data right now is still fairly limited. Yeah, there are things we can look at regarding Switch 2 sales and say it's very promising. Like, yeah, technically, third-party sales are better on Switch 2 so far compared to Switch 1, but we don't know how things are going to pan out. When we account for the fact that now here in 2025, digital sales are a lot more popular, and also with the Switch 2 and just other platforms in general with their equivalents, game key cards are definitely diminishing the interest in physical sales. These things can factor into what we're seeing with the numbers here. But then also considering how in the first 4 days, Switch 2 sold 3.5 million units worldwide, that is impressive, but that does not guarantee that the Switch 2 is going to become the best-selling console of all time, even though it's currently the fastest-selling console of all time to start. It's still too early to say for sure how things are going to pan out and if something is very good news, bad news, or somewhere in the middle. But before going forward, let me point out I'm aiming for a goal of 60,000 subscribers, so if you find yourself enjoying my content, your subscription would be appreciated. Some other interesting updates that have popped up. The Crash Bandicoot N. Sane Trilogy is now compatible with Nintendo Switch 2. Now to be clear, this is a Switch 1 game that has had an update, so it now works with the backwards compatibility of Switch 2. Not 100% of Switch 1 games work on Switch 2 just naturally. Some of them have some issues, and so Nintendo is slowly going in and making sure all these different games work appropriately, and now Crash Bandicoot N. Sane Trilogy is one of those games that works appropriately. And there's also been an update for Smash Bros. In how it works on Switch 2 as well, as you see here reported by Oatmeal Dome. Nintendo has fixed the issue with Mii Fighters on the Switch 2 where online matches may immediately end with a connection error if a Switch 1 is also in the room. This was presumably fixed with the 20.1.5 firmware update. So if you've been having some issues playing with your Mii Fighters online on Smash Bros., it should be working now. An interesting rumor has popped up. As we see here being written by Genki, they saw that Christopher Dring from the game business was talking about how the Mario & Rabbids team, who have now been disbanded, had actually pitched a new project that has been turned down. Presumably it would have been with Nintendo. And I think this is an interesting concept. What else could they have done? They were successful with Mario & Rabbids. What would be next? Now, I assume this would be with a different team, but I have been personally thinking that Nintendo and Ubisoft should work together on some other type of exclusive. Maybe Star Fox, for example. We look at the success that the Star Fox content had in Starlink, and it was the most successful version of the game. And I do think there's a very good game in Starlink. I think that it just needs a little bit more attention to detail and such. So if Nintendo oversaw and contributed to a Star Fox project alongside Ubisoft, using some sort of customized version of that Starlink engine, I think they could put together a really good, ambitious Star Fox game for Nintendo Switch 2. But that's just an idea, a possibility that I think makes sense. We don't know what Nintendo's going to do with Star Fox, but I am willing to bet we will see Star Fox within the next couple years. Fingers crossed. But now let's move on to a whole slew of Donkey Kong Bananza news. We've just learned that the file size for Donkey Kong Bananza has been shrunk down to a more concise size of 8.5 gigabytes as opposed to the initially listed 10. Nintendo's compression technology continues to impress, so this will be even easier to fit onto your console. And let me just say, a smaller size like this does not mean the game will be small in scope or a lack of content. Nintendo's just really good at fitting large games into small spaces. We're just scratching the surface here with this Donkey Kong news. On the Nintendo Today app, they released new footage of Pauline making some pretty adorable facial expressions. The animations in Bananza continue to impress, and the more and more I see of Pauline in this game, the more of an endearing character she appears to be. And here's a heads up for those looking to pick up that Donkey Kong and Pauline amiibo from Bananza. It's now open for pre-order at GameStop, Best Buy, and Target. On the note of Target though, people have been reporting that there are playable kiosks for Donkey Kong Bananza, as we see here being shown by Daniel, or @DanPar on Twitter. There are a variety of little clips here of Bananza. Here you see the new Kong Bananza form, right? So this is not the old Bananza demo that we saw from the Treehouse, but it's a new updated version of the game. And yeah, you're exploring around with Pauline on your shoulder, which is really cool, and you have access to the Kong Bananza forum, so maybe you could find this demo at your local store or Target or what have you. And I mean, looking to that, just at the screenshot here shared by Daniel, it just looks amazing. I'm very excited for this game, and may start hunting around to find a playable demo myself. But we're still not quite done with the Donkey Kong news here, because since the Bananza Direct, a variety of commercials have been coming up for Bananza, as I've been showing throughout this video here. There's a lot of cool little clips, they all look really good. There's a little bit of new footage we haven't seen before with Donkey Kong and Pauline dancing together, and it's kind of cute and awkward, so I just love their interactions here. And what else can I say? I think Donkey Kong Bananza is going to be one of the best games of the year, even though I haven't played it yet. We still have one more story to discuss today though, and that is a story that apparently, in London, in the subway or the tunnels, there are advertisements for Nintendo Switch 2 games, and Metroid Prime 4 is being advertised as out now. So everyone's freaking out about this. A lot of people think this somehow means that Metroid Prime 4, even though it's not actually out, is going to be shadow dropped soon, like next week or something like that. And I gotta tell you, I'm very skeptical of this. I do not believe this is going to be the case. I think Prime 4 is coming out at the earliest September, maybe October, maybe November. I mean, maybe it could come out August. I suppose that is a possibility, but this game is definitely not getting shadow dropped in the month of June or July. I strongly doubt this is going to be the case. Metroid Prime 4 is a huge game. Even if you don't believe in its sales to be something that'll be 5 plus or 10 million plus or anything like that, Metroid games still usually sell 2 to 3 million copies. This is still a significant release for Nintendo, like it would be for a Fire Emblem or Xenoblade game at least, and those games would be treated a bit differently as well. This game's not just about to be shadow dropped here. There's going to be a little bit more time and a little bit more of a lead up to its release, and they're going to wait till after Bananza comes out. Now, what's going on here? As you see here, here's also a Mario Kart World advertisement that was posted, and you see the out and out there, and it's in a similar location to the Metroid Prime 4 one. I'm going to assume that basically what's going on is that there was just a mistake, and this out now they took it from the Mario Kart World one, they accidentally put it on Prime 4. Now, we can speculate in the possibilities here, right? Maybe there was a time where Prime 4 was initially planned to be a launch title and it was pushed back a few months. That's possible. It also could just straight up be a mistake and there's nothing else to really interpret from it. As we see here from this Video Games Chronicle article here, they did reach out to a Nintendo spokesperson who told them it is incorrect. What does incorrect mean? It just means it's not out now, which is obvious information. The game is not available to the public currently. I do think, though, we are going to learn about Metroid Prime 4 fairly soon in a Nintendo Direct. Some people think that because of the Bananza Direct and the Splatoon news from last week that there won't be a normal Nintendo Direct soon. I don't really think that's an indicator at all that there won't be a Nintendo Direct soon. In fact, we actually have quite a bit of a history of game-specific Directs happening shortly before a big Nintendo Direct. Like, take a look at the Mario Wonder Direct, for example. Or sometimes in reverse, we got the Mario Kart World Direct after the big Switch 2 Direct and all the Treehouse footage and stuff of Mario Kart World. So, I still think there's reason for there to be a Direct, and that's probably where we're going to get one more last big update from Nintendo about Bananza before it comes out in July. And so yeah, I still think there's going to be a Nintendo Direct maybe next week or in early July, and I would expect us to get a major update on Metroid Prime 4. My thinking is that Mario Kart World was that first big game for Switch 2, now it's Bananza as we're seeing all the marketing really ramp up for this game, and then after Bananza, what is next? Might be Prime 4. But what do you all think? Let me know in the comments below. This is AndresRestart, thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.